Welcome back, everyone, and thank you very much for staying with us. Tonight, we shift attention to one of the biggest, if not the biggest, predicaments bedeviling our nation at the moment. Today, armed banditry, which is characterized by armed robbery, kidnapping, murder, and rape, is the most urgent national security concern in Nigeria. If security is guaranteed, the economy will thrive, and every other sector will also flourish. My guest tonight is Professor Femi Olufunmilayo, a political scientist and contemporary security affairs analyst. He was the former head of Department, International Relations and Strategic Studies, also the Dean of the College of Arts and Social Sciences, United University, as a focus on taming banditry in Nigeria. Prof, good evening to you, sir, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Right, so let's begin with a general assessment of the security situation in Nigeria. What's your evaluation of the situation?
Well, it appears that the security situation in the country, which has been deteriorating seriously, at least since 2010, when the Boko Haram onslaught began effectively, has been compounded to a point where we can say it's in a crisis situation.
Right. I mean, we all can see that insecurity in Nigeria has become increasingly complex and uncertain. I mean, look at the Northwest, parts of the North Central, some parts of the East, and most recently, rampant kidnapping in the Federal Capital Territory. What exactly are we not doing right?
Well, if you do not learn from your past mistakes, you are going to have your woes being repeated all over and over again. The problem we face in terms of security in this country is not something novel. It's something that has happened in other countries, and we have the benefit of learning from them. And then over the years, these things have been happening here, and we have the pedestal where we can mount and learn from our mistakes. The problem is that so much talk goes into fighting insecurity, and so much money. We appears to believe that the best way to deal with insecurity is to throw money at it, while leaving our security architecture exactly as it was over a decade ago. What do I mean? This country has been running a centralized security machinery. Internal security is within the purview of the Nigerian police in particular. And then we have allied agencies like Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Immigration Corps, DSS, and what have you. Nigeria is the only federation in the world that runs a centralized internal security machinery. Nigeria is too large in terms of population. By various estimates, we are over 200 million. And then we expect an Inspector General of Police, who is just one man with one brain, to coordinate security around the nooks and crannies of this country, receiving messages, signals, reports from 36 police commissioners and one in the FCT, making 37. The logical thing to do, and this is a no-brainer, is to decentralize, allow states run by governors recognized by the Constitution as chief security officers of their states to have their own police agency. By so doing, all this focus on Abuja, the president, the Inspector General of Police, will be reversed drastically, and people will begin to look at their governor and their own respective state security formation, police formation, as responsible for whatever is their lot in terms of security. Policing is local. I was in the US in December 2019 at Johns Hopkins University. While there, the governor of Maryland signed a bill into law permitting Johns Hopkins University to have its own campus police. What led to that were some incidents within its territory, as it were. And there had been pressure that the state police of Maryland was not giving them adequate security coverage. And with that incident, it became inevitable for the government, because that is a place where people get elected indeed, and they don't joke with the yearnings of the electorate. Johns Hopkins University, a university, not a county, was granted license to have its own police. There are so many, unless we do that, we are going to be moving in a cycle, because the machinery of the federal government in terms of security is incapable of dealing with the challenge of insecurity across the country. That much is clear to everyone. Even the so-called federal police, without the support of state governments, it probably will have collapsed. In other words, even the federal government cannot maintain its own police establishment effectively. It's state governors who buy them patrol vans, build new police stations, and support them in diverse ways. If you allow states to have their own police, and it must not be all of them. Canada is a federation. They have 7 provinces. 6 provinces have provincial police. 1 did not deem it necessary to establish one. And then it's the federal police that maintains security, internal security in that province. It doesn't mean that every state in Nigeria must run a state police institution. It's a matter of capacity. Guidelines will be laid out in terms of everything, from recruitment to procurement of arms and ammunition, the caliber of weapons that you can use, and the type of training you can give, etc. And then, in terms of the fear of abuse, you have the Police Service Commission. It can be enlarged to become National Police Service Commission that will also be like a regulatory agency over state policing institutions, such that if there is any form of abuse, they can say, well, your state police formation for now will be under the control of the Inspector General of Police of the Federation. And there will be, sanctions for abuse. So the fear that governors will abuse it, is the federal police not being abused? Don't they get involved in some shady things during elections and in other circumstances? So anything can be abused. But that doesn't mean that we throw the baby away with the bath water. Before the military took power in this country in 1966, we used to have policing at the local government level and at the regional level. It was during the Civil War when the military authorities needed to ramp up all available manpower capable of handling arms, that they mobilized all the local government police from north to south and all the regional police personnel to the war front. They gave them crash training. And that was how overnight the Nigerian military, from less than about 50,000, jumped to over 250,000. So it is not something that is alien to us. We had passed through that route before. It is when you do that, you allow states to run their own police, that you will have effective security governance at the state level, percolating to the local government level. I read something, is it S, they call it now, it used to be tweet by Mr. Bayo Nonuga, outlining a plan by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to establish forest guards to protect mining enclaves in the country where a lot of criminality and bloodletting has been happening. And they are also planning to establish a marine police formation for the country. That is good in principle. I have been advocating for that, but not for federal government to take it up. The federal government shouldn't do that. In any case, the Nigerian police has a marine unit since 1891 under the Lagos colony. And today they have 81 stations around the riverine areas and the coastal regions. So he can put more resources into that particular unit of the Nigerian police, but his focus should be how to send a bill to the National Assembly to permit the decentralization of the Nigerian policing architecture so that state governors or state governments can also have their respective police, some in the riverine areas like Rivers State, Bayelsa State, Delta State. Their own focus, if the challenges they are having is from the creeks, their focus could be marine police. And for those in the forested areas where a lot of banditry has been taking place, like Zamfara, for instance, they could decide to establish forest guards. So the federal government's role will be to put a regulatory machinery and for oversight and control in place. And it's not mandatory, like I said earlier, that every state must have a state police. It should be based on need. Lagos State, for instance, may decide to have a form of DSS. Because it's heavily urbanized and the population there is overwhelming. So the type of police they will have, for it to be more effective, let the bulk of it be secret service, so that they blend with the community and are able to monitor and apprehend criminals.
All right, that's perfect. Yes. I'm talking about regulatory measures in place to avoid oversight. Prof, I'm sure you're aware of the few state security outfits already in place, already functioning in some states. But then there are fears, and one of them is that there are tendencies that state governors may hijack this security outfit for their own personal or selfish reasons.
Well, like I said earlier, that fear is quite palpable. But let me give you an example. The idea of setting up private universities have been on the front burner. Even in the Second Republic, it was mooted, and some tried to even establish some, but the country did away with it because it was felt that it would be abused, that standards would be destroyed, etc. But today, when you look at rankings of universities, you see that a good number of these private universities are on the top in this country. It is so because we have a National Universities Commission that sets guidelines for the establishment of universities and approve programs. And when programs are due for reaccreditation, it's not a blanket accreditation eternally. Every 5 years, experts in each subject area, whether it's international relations and strategic studies or sociology or medicine, will come on visitation. And they will look at everything you have been doing, even your scripts, even your staff files. Where did they study? Anything you can think of, your classrooms, your laboratories. And sometimes they will tell you, shut down this place. Or sometimes they will say, the accreditation we are giving you is just temporary. It's just a kind of let's wait and see. They call it interim accreditation. Sometimes, but if you have done your homework well, they give you full accreditation. The same thing can be replicated in terms of state police. It's a time that is an idea whose time has come. It's inevitable. We can't run away from it. Like I said earlier, to allay fears and to reassure everyone that state police will not be abused, the present Police Service Commission should be redesigned to become National Police Service Commission. And it should have a department that is responsible for oversight on state police formations. And that department will set out guidelines, how much you should have. It may include having a consolidated fund so that when you set up your state police, the issue of not paying them will not arise. That is a type of fund that right from the time you are getting your allocation, it's already deducted aside for that purpose. And then in terms of recruitment and training, it will also spell out the guidelines. There will be, your carrying capacity must be there. If all you can afford for state police in a month is 1 billion naira, then there will be a limit to the number of personnel you can recruit. If it is 5 billion, it could be more. And then in terms of training, you cannot go and start giving them training in guerrilla warfare. That is going to be suspect. So your training manual, everything, they will have oversight over it. And the range of the scope of their activity will also be delineated so that they don't start having conflict with existing internal security agencies like the federal police, like the DSS and civil defense and what have you. So they would rather work in a complementary manner. And there will be also in the act establishing, giving the states the latitude to establish their own police, sanctions will be clearly spelled out. Like if you are running a medical program in a university, for instance, if you do not meet up to basic requirements of Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, they can stop your program, withdraw the license they gave you. So that will also be possible in this case. And then those who actually abuse the police should be made to face the wrath of law. And in that case, state governors, we must have in that law that when state governors, maybe constitutional review, that any state governor that abuse the police under its control should be made to face the consequences as soon as he steps down from office. After all, some of them went to jail for looting their state's treasury after they left office. So that will be there. It was Martin Luther King who says that judicial decrees may not change the heart, but it will at least restrain the heartless. In other words, those who are prone to abusing state police may be itching to do so. But the fact that consequences are there awaiting them, if they are state governors or whoever, will also curb them to a great extent. And in any case, whenever there is such abuse, I've written a paper published in my centers, Buratai Center for Contemporary Security Affairs, of which I'm the director. The book of reading we published last year, titled Securing Nigeria in the 21st Century. We have a paper there on state police that gives a blow-by-blow, step-by-step approach to setting up state police in Nigeria and curbing abuses. It's not rocket science. It can be done.
All right. So, Prof, earlier you talked about the capability of the security architecture, and I'd like you to buttress on that because Nigeria's military has announced offensives, including airstrikes against bandit hideouts in vast forests across the northwest. But these criminal gangs are proving an elusive enemy. Is it about political will or competence?
My sister, the problem is not with the military so much. It's not so much with them. I've interacted with the military closely. I've been involved with them at the level of research and teaching as a resource person. So I have a lot of friends among them from the number one to other ranks over the years. I can tell you that the military is being overstretched, completely overstretched. There is what I would call war fatigue. You cannot be fighting war endlessly. If you are not careful, you have mutiny. Because people that are dying in the military, they are human beings like us. The problem is the military originally is designed to deal with external threats. But over the years, there is hardly no state, I'm told, there is, except one state, 35 states have internal security operation manned by the military only. So, and what is the size of this military? They need backup. And that was why when they were fighting Boko Haram in Borno, they, on their own, created what is called a civilian JTF, which was a sort of pseudo paramilitary agency manned by the locals who were trained by them and equipped to be able to hold the ground. If, for instance, they go to Gwoza and they are able to clear out insurgents or bandits there, are they going to set up a barrack there permanently? So they need those who are going to take charge. And that was why they created that. Instead of that, why can't we have state police? So that when the military comes in to help out, when the police formations that are there are unable to cope with the level of firepower or assault coming from terrorists, bandits, and sundry criminal elements, then the military can come in and clear the way for them. After they had gone, the local police formation will secure the environment. But we have a situation where the military goes in this direction, they bring respite to the people, they go back to other theater of battles. The insurgents monitor the situation, they carry out their surveillance, they discover the military out, and they come back. And then we start blaming the military. So I'm not saying the military do not have their own internal issues. I suspect that there are elements within the military who probably do not want this unending war never to end. I suspect there are corrupt elements within the military who profit from the huge budgetary allocations going into the into defense sub-budgets and so on and so forth. So, but the onus is on the security chiefs themselves to make sure they have a robust counterintelligence unit that can fish out those insider collaborators and saboteurs within the establishment. Of course, the military needs to be better equipped. The military needs to be better funded. There is no gainsaying that. But more importantly, we should delineate between the functions of the military in an ideal setting and what should be within the purview of internal security agencies. If we do that, after all, this military we are talking about, the Nigerian military, I don't know any military in the world, maybe with the exception of maybe Pakistan, that has credentials for successful peacekeeping operations globally more than the Nigerian military. They have been everywhere, and anywhere they went, they shone like the star. So why is it that within their own terrain, it appears they are not bringing this insurgency, banditry, terrorism to an end? It's because we are giving them more than what their capacity can handle. We are giving them police duties. We are giving them the duties of paramilitary forces. They are in charge of roadblocks. They are the ones guarding some buildings. They are the ones escorting some VIPs. Haba. We can't continue to overstretch them like that and expect them to bring this to an end. They are doing their optimum best, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Prof, let's take a break, and when we come back, we will continue with